Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Chad Calek, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 64. But before we get there, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for the overwhelming happy birthday wishes yesterday. That was crazy to turn on to social media and just see an overflow, a flood of love from all of you guys. And that meant a lot to me. Thank you guys so much. It just felt good to read out those messages. So thank you all very much. And for episode number 64, we're actually going to talk about something that I was asked about, which is protection during paranormal investigations. Now, this question actually came up after I posted about the investigation we did at the Thomas house at the haunted church. That was a barn burner of an investigation. I really was not prepared for that. That was one of the more intense ones that I've been on. So the people that were there definitely should know that's the real deal. And a lot of people online, after seeing the photo of this big black object that was running around, after a lot of people saw the photo of this, they asked me, what do you do to protect yourself? Do you wear a St. Michael's medallion, or do you say any prayers or anything like that? And I thought of something that I always do to protect myself, and I thought of where it came from. And when I was going through my memories, it went all the way back to this really crazy story that I wanted to share with you. And it was the first time that I had ever basically used this method. And my method is really simple. It's not religious. It's not spiritual. I just believe that we all have that voice inside of us that tells us when it's time to exit stage left, when it's been too much, when you're in too much danger, when you're no longer safe, when you could get hurt for real. I think we all have that little alarm that goes off inside of us. And I definitely have it, big time. And this event that I'm going to tell you about in a second was a time that I should have listened to it, but I didn't. And this was the earliest memory I have of not listening to this voice and saying to myself, never again am I going to disobey the warning signs from the voice inside me. I believe I was 8 or 9 years old, and every weekend my parents would take us to Galveston Island, where they would throw parties with their friends and they would go camping. And specifically speaking, we would go to an island, a campsite called Freeport. And Freeport Beach was a lot of fun. It was where the 20-somethings to like early 30s crowds kind of hung out. The married couples that had kids. So I like that. I like that there was a lot of, younger kids around. And my parents were really cool. They gave us a lot of freedom when we went there. As long as we were within eyesight of mom or dad, we can kind of roam wherever we wanted. And this is back where you can build bonfires and you can, go fishing from, right there on the shore. And my dad would do that. And he would often pull out, everything from, baby sharks to you name it. And they would cook it up fresh right there. Now, I'm not a big fan of fish, but when you're pulling it straight out of the ocean, it just tastes different. It tastes better. It's just something about it that I didn't mind. And one of the things that a lot of people do down in Galveston Island is they do all kinds of, kneeboarding. They do skimboarding, obviously surfing. And for whatever reason, I was never really good at anything that involved having an incredible sense of balance. And I don't know if it's that I'm just low-centered or if I have short legs or I don't know what it is, but I was just never very good at any of that stuff. And I had tried several times. But one thing I did love to do, love to do, and I would do it all day long, is body surf. Now, if you don't know what body surfing is, it's the same thing as surfing, except you pretty much turn your body into the board. Right when the wave starts to break, you turn your body towards the beach, towards the shoreline, and you just kind of plank out and you make your body as stiff as you can. And the wave, if it catches you right, it'll launch you, 20, 30 feet. And it's a blast. It's something that I still do today when I go in the ocean. There are actually, uh, you know, body surfing groups now and competitions of people that can just do crazy stuff with only their body on the waves. And you should check it out on YouTube sometime. You'll see people body surfing. And it was just, like I said, it was something that I love to do. And I had been doing it all day long. This was probably midsummer, so we had already got past what's called the first burn. And what I mean by that is if you go to the beach constantly, you'll have the first time of the year where you have a sunburn, and it'll always be really bad. But it seems like after that, it's just really hard to burn. Um, so you can just, as long as you're putting on a thin layer of sunscreen oil, then, you should be fine. So I was way past the first burn. My hair was about as bleached blonde as it gets. It was almost platinum from the sun. And I was so incredibly tan. It was crazy. The photos of me back then are hilarious. And I would spend 8-10 hours out in the water, only coming in to go to the bathroom and to eat food. And yes, I never went in the bathroom in the water. There's something about that is incredibly gross to me. You people that piss in a pool or even in the ocean. I was like, I don't know. Part of the reason why I never would go to the bathroom in the ocean, and a lot of people would, is I don't know, just something about peeing in that water made me feel like it would draw a fish to me or something. So I never did it. I always ran up and found a sand dune to hide behind to handle my business. But it had been a long day of, planking out and doing the body surfing, and the sun was starting to go down, and my dad was calling me to come back to our campsite, which I did not want to. I was just having so much fun. I felt like there was another 20 or 30 minutes I could have gotten out of it, and he was demanding that I come up. Now, the reason he is because he's a good parent, and if you know anything about the ocean, you do not go into the ocean at night. Okay, it is impossible to see. It is very easy to lose your sense of direction. It's very, very hard to know where you are in relation to the shore. And if you get a rip current, it could just rip you out. And at night is when the tides are coming in. So if you don't know what a rip current is, if you've never been to the ocean, and if you've never experienced this, it's kind of hard to understand what I'm going to describe here in a second. But it is incredibly dangerous, and it takes people's lives every single day. So what a rip current is when the water comes rushing into the shore, there's multiple waves that are hitting. And the bigger the wave, the further the water will go on shore. And the smaller the wave, the shorter it will go on shore. But they're both going to come rushing back into the ocean, right? The water goes up, and then it comes back. Well, when you've got millions of tons of water rushing up, that means you have millions of tons of water and the power of that water going back into the ocean. And when you have multiple waves, they will often move in different directions, and they could create almost like a whirlpool in the middle. And it will pull you back really, really far into the ocean in a matter of seconds. So you could be swimming forward, and you could actually swim forward 10 feet. But the body of water that you're swimming in will move back 200 yards in, a matter of 20, 30 seconds. So if that happens, you're fucked, unless the Coast Guard's right there. If that happens at night, you're really, really fucked, because the Coast Guard is just going to have an incredible time of even seeing you by the time someone even knows you're gone, and you will not be seen from shore. There's no way. You will not be seen in any capacity from shore. So when it starts to get, dark, yeah, you got to get out of the water. You definitely got to get out of the water. So I was, being a little bitchy little kid, and snobbishly, I was pissed off that my dad made me come up. And when I got up there, everybody was, cooking fish, and my dad's friends were there, and Brian was there with his friend Lance, and I didn't have any of my friends with me down there. I had met some kids earlier in the day, but this was the first day we arrived, so I hadn't really, sunk my teeth in any new friendships yet or anything. So I was just kind of bored, and I'm watching everybody else have a good time, and I wanted to go back to the water. And, it was one of those things where I was just being stubborn, And I told my dad I was going to go to the bathroom, and he said, okay. And I went up to this because they didn't have like porta potties back then, so you'd have to go find a dune and basically dig a hole and do your business. Yeah, the beaches, yeah, they were wide open back then. You could drink on the beaches. You can, like I said, build bonfires, camp overnight, all that stuff. But to make a long story short, I went to the top of the dune that I was going to use the bathroom on, down the other side, came back out, probably about 20, 30 feet away from where I entered, and I started making my way down to the beach. And right when I got down there, I see this black figure step out. I'm like, oh my God. And it's my dad. He had sensed that I was up to something, just his fatherly sense. And he went down to the water, assuming that I was going to come, towards the ocean. And he was correct. And he always had a good way of handling it. He was the kind of parent that he could break your heart with his words, so he'd never use his fists, He just said to me, he was like, Chad, you got to listen to me. I'm not telling you this stuff because I want to hurt you. I'm not keeping you up here because I don't want you to have fun, I want you to be able to do it tomorrow. So in order for that to happen, you got to get through the night, So I went back up and everybody was hanging out. And I was just, wanted to get back out to the water, and I wanted the night to end. So I laid down and I went to sleep. I woke up, it's probably about 5 a.m. It was nice and early. I mean, the sun was just barely starting to crack. So, the sky is this kind of reddish purple haze. It's, a little bit lighter than darkness. And in my brain, hey, look, this is morning. So Dad said morning I could go back down there, although I knew it was too dark. But I also figured the sun comes up pretty fast, so, if I get down and get in there and it's, dark right away, and, 20, 30 minutes, it'll be, sun up and everybody will be waking up and no one will be upset. Even though I knew that was BS. I'm just basically convincing myself to, again, break my father's directives to me, so I can just go get back and start body surfing again. So I wake up quietly and sneak out of camp, and I go down to the water, and it's still pretty dark. And I'm starting to feel pretty freaked out about how dark the water is. So I go out, and I wait till the water comes up to about my knees, and I could feel the current pulling pretty hard. And I'm like, maybe I should just kind of wait and see if the waves come closer to me, because they were still breaking out a ways from where I was. So I'm like, what should I do? What should I do? And there's that voice inside of me that is saying, don't go out there. Don't go out there. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Because I know I could swim. And to this point, I had never been caught in any kind of rip current or rip tide or anything like that. I'm like, why am I feeling like I shouldn't go out there? And I remember thinking that, like, why am I feeling this way? So I just start moving really slow because my curiosity is getting the best of me. And I'm more curious as to why I'm feeling that way than I am anything else. So I'm slowly moving out into the water. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And with each step that I take, I can feel the fear building inside of me. And again, I don't know why, other than it's kind of dark. So I get to about waist level in water. I decide I'm just going to chill here a little bit and just see what happens, because something has me scared right now. Now, keep in mind, this is the Gulf of Mexico. This is great white shark territory. They come up from Mexico, from Ensenada, Cabo. They swim right into the Gulf. Now, I had seen sharks before. I had seen fins before, but I had never been attacked by a shark. Never had one even come close to me. Nothing like that. So I didn't really have a fear of them. And I think that's maybe just because children always have that kind of, it always happens to somebody else belief that nothing bad's ever going to happen to you. And so I didn't really have a fear of sharks or really anything in the water. And to the degree that it was almost unnatural when I think about it, how little fear I had in the water. I just felt so at home in it. There was nothing about it that felt scary to me. So I'm held up there and I'm looking around, surveying the water. And admittedly, I can't see anything in the water. It's just too dark. You can't see past a quarter inch. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. And I look back to the campsite to see if I'm still, within a reasonable distance or if the water's moved me or not. And right as I turn around, something big, and I mean big, rubs up against my back and doesn't strike my back. It's not like it was swimming fast and hit me. I just feel it rub up against my back, in which I just jump, bury my head, and just take off swimming as hard as I possibly can for as fast as I can. I didn't scream, I didn't yell. I was just swimming as hard as I possibly could, because what in the hell was that just hit the entire side? It covered my whole back. My entire back, I felt the pressure of it. So I came up out of the water, and I look back, and I still can't see. It's not quite bright enough yet where I could see what's over there. So I start rubbing my hands all the way in the water around me to see what I could feel. And although I don't feel anything solid, I notice there's this kind of film, this kind of filmy gook that's all over my arms, all over my back, my midsection, right where you come out of the water. And I can't tell what it is. I could see that it's clear because my arms aren't like black or anything, but it's just this grimy, goopy gunk. That's the best way I can describe it. It almost felt like a super thin layer of oil or something. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like looking around going, man, I have no idea what this is. So I'm standing there forever. And that voice inside of me is telling me, go inside, get back to your father, get back to your camp. And I want to just get out of there because I am truly freaked out. But the curiosity in me is like, what was that? I want to know what that was. I didn't think it was a shark. I knew enough about sharks back then to know that they strike, that you will know if you come upon a great white shark or a tiger shark, you'll know. So I knew it wasn't that, but it was just big. So I'm looking around, and this goes on for probably 10, 15 minutes. And I could still feel this gook like everywhere. And it's starting to get brighter and brighter, and I could see that there's something that's shimmering off the water. And it is like this film. And I'm like, what in the hell? And I'm like looking around. And suddenly I see something that's kind of round. And you can see that the tip of it is coming out of the water. And it's big. It's got a good size to it. It's definitely bigger than my body, but it's round and it looks super swollen, and it looks like it has some kind of curtain or something wrapped around it. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm sitting here going, should I go over there and actually see what that is, or should I just get the hell out of here? And again, the voice inside of me is saying, get out of here. Get out of here. There is nothing over there that is going to be healthy for you. You need to get out of here. Now remember, at this time, my family doesn't even know where I'm at. If something happens to me, they're sleeping. They wouldn't even know until they woke up and discovered I was gone, and they had been up partying all night, so I'm weighing all this out. I'm thinking about all this in my head. My parents don't know where I'm at. If I wake them up and yell to them, they're going to be pissed. But maybe I should just go in and just sit on the shore when they wake up. Just tell them I've been sitting on the shore waiting to go in the water, that I was a good kid, blah, blah, blah. But I want to know what this thing is. So I decided I'm going to move closer to it. And it's a slow process. I'm not like in the hurry to just, swim as fast as I can over there. So I start moving slowly towards this thing. It's getting bigger, and it's getting bigger. And I get over to it, and I can't tell what it is, but it's huge. It's big and round, and it's huge. And it's definitely wearing, it's like clothes, but it's not, there's, I don't see any kind of arms or legs or anything like that. It's weird. It's like it's wrapped in something. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like looking around at everywhere. I'm looking around. I'm going, huh. So I decided I'm actually going to grab it and bring it to shore, basically, and obviously this is not a good idea, but I want to see what it is. I'm just so curious. And this gunky shit is all over me at this point. And I'm just like, I can't figure out what this is that's on me, but I want to get it to shore. So I grab it and I start pulling it, and it starts spinning. Like one side of it would spin around. Like every time I pulled it, it would spin around. And I finally stopped, and I'm like, what is this? And the sun's really starting to come up now where I can kind of see more of what it is, but I still can't tell ultimately what it is. I would think it would be some kind of big fish, except for the fact that it seems to be wrapped in something, like some kind of cloth. So I'm moving it around, I'm maneuvering it, and suddenly I come across what appears to be hair, like fuzzy hair. I'm like, huh. And I roll it over, and I can't really make out anything except this big slit. And I mean by slit, like if you took like just, a butter knife and put it into butter, there'd be like a slit there. I'm like, what is this slit? So I'm leaning over and I'm looking at it, and I poke it, nothing really happens. I poke it again, nothing really happens. And I lean down really close, and I grab the slit, and I open it up to see what it is. And it's a human eyeball. I freaked out. I just started screaming and freaking out. And suddenly I hear my dad yelling for me, Chad, Chad, Chad. He's running down the shore, jumping into the water, and I take off swimming as fast as I can. And this thing is some massive human body that is massively swollen from something to the point that you can't even tell what it is. And it didn't have arms or legs. Well, as it turned out, the gunk and everything that was all over me was layers of skin that were shedding. The salt water was just eating the skin up. And as this thing would move, it would have this residue from the skin coming off of its body. So I'm freaking out. I'm swimming, towards my dad as fast as I can. And I'm crying. I mean, I am so hard. I mean, I was so panicked. And I'm telling him, that's a body, Dad. That's a body. That's a body. That's a body. And he's like, let's get you to shore right now. Let's get you to shore. And he gets me up to the shore, and he takes me back to my mother. And he turns around, and he goes back. Now, I didn't watch what he did because I was freaking out. I mean, I was just panicking. But I assume he retrieved the body because shortly after, the EMTs came, Coast Guards came, and everybody got this gentleman. Well, it turns out a couple weeks later, it came out in the news that this guy, who this was, that I ran into in the ocean, he had been missing for quite some time. Days, not hours, I mean. It was like 4 or 5 days he had been missing. And he was involved in some fairly nefarious things. I know it involved drugs. I don't know what to degree, what his job was or what he did, or I don't think anything about that. But I know he was involved with drug running, which is very common down there. And he was taken out on a boat and never to be found again. So whoever did whatever they did to him, they hurt him bad. They killed him, and they threw him in the ocean, where he obviously somehow made his way to shore. Now, when I got back, of course my mother is panicking, absolutely panicking, because I'm panicking, and nobody knew that I had woken up and went out into the ocean on my own. And of course, if you're a parent, you find out your son was just dragging a dead body back to shore. I mean, of course, you're going to be terrified. But there was something weird that I do remember experiencing once I got back. My fear turned to sadness. And I couldn't stop crying. And I didn't know this man. But there was an overwhelming amount of just sadness that I felt. And it was for this person. I mean, it really was for that person. I couldn't even envision what he looked like because he was so swollen that it just looked like a big fleshy head with slits, for eyes, and I couldn't even make out a mouth. I couldn't make out hardly anything. So I didn't even know what he looked like, but in my mind I had this vision of what he looked like. And I just never felt such a rush of sadness. And at that time, I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about anything. I just had this film of his skin all over my body. And I had just looked directly into his eye. And I couldn't stop crying. Because my mom kept asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I kept saying yes, but I couldn't stop crying. Now, later on in the evening, I had obviously got a shower right away, and we were there till the following day. And I remember I was eating dinner that night. And the one thing I kept thinking about is, why didn't I listen to that voice? This was not a positive experience. I did not want to experience this. Yes, I was curious, but I knew there was nothing there. Nothing there was going to be positive for me. Nothing. But yet I was still driven to go towards it. And I remember telling myself, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to have that voice inside of me just screaming to me to get to safety, to turn around, to go back, to let your curiosity go. Because if I would have just listened to that voice, I could have avoided all that. All of it. And it's weird because even today, as disfigured as this body was, I have a perfect image of it in my mind. And it was horrific. It was terrible. So when I go on paranormal investigations, there's a degree of excitement that I feel. I've said many times before that when paranormal activity occurs, I almost feel like I'm on the other side. Like that's the closest I feel to God. But there's definitely moments where I get scared like anybody else. And where I hear that voice say, "That's enough. Time to go." And when I hear that voice today, and throughout my entire adult ghost hunting career, I never disobey that voice. Ever. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what kind of evidence we could capture. I don't care where we're at in the investigation, if we're filming for a TV show or not. It doesn't matter. If that voice tells me to go, I listen to it. Because I don't know where that voice comes from, but I know it loves me. I know it cares about me. And I know that it wants me to be protected at all times. So I hope that answers the question about what do I do for protection. I listen to that voice. Thank you all for listening to episode number 64 of the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.